Let's talk about Sir Christopher Lee. Here's a man whose real life was so packed with adventure, and honestly danger, that it makes the incredible characters he played on screen seem almost normal by comparison.
Of course, we all know him as Dracula. For a whole generation, he was Dracula.
And then there's the powerful, corrupt Saruman, a role he seemed born to play.
And who could forget the elegant and deadly Sith Lord, Count Dooku?
But here's the thing. Those characters are just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is how the man himself, this descendant of emperors, this World War II spy, this heavy metal singer, was actually the blueprint for all the myths we came to love on screen.
You know that incredible authority he had on screen? That commanding presence? Well, that wasn't just good acting. It was real. It came from an ancestry that was, and this is no exaggeration, 1,000 years in the making.
So get this. On his mother's side, he was a Carandini, one of the oldest noble families in all of Europe. We're talking about a lineage so ancient, it was believed to trace all the way back to Charlemagne himself.
And this wasn't just some family rumor. It was documented, official history sanctioned by Holy Roman emperors. When you have that kind of history literally in your blood, playing an ancient vampire or a timeless wizard, well, it comes with a kind of authenticity you just can't fake.
Okay, so his story doesn't just live in ancient history. It was also shaped by the absolute brutality of the 20th century, and this is where his life takes a turn that sounds like it's straight out of a movie.
I mean, his military career during World War II is the stuff of spy novels. He was an intelligence officer, a liaison working with Britain's most elite special forces, the kind of units that operate deep in the shadows. And when the war ended, his job just changed. He was then tasked with hunting down fugitive Nazi war criminals.
Now, Lee almost never talked about what he did or saw. He'd say he was still bound by oath, but he did admit to witnessing the absolute worst of humanity. Seeing that kind of real-world evil up close, it gave him a psychological depth, an understanding of true malice that he would pour into his most terrifying roles.
So what do you do with that kind of life experience? That blend of ancient aristocracy and the grim realities of war? Well, if you're Christopher Lee, you bring it to the movies, and in the process, you pretty much change the horror genre forever.
He totally reinvented Dracula. Before Lee, the Count was this stiff, almost theatrical character thanks to Bela Lugosi. But Lee's Dracula? He was an animal. He was fast, powerful, and carried this intense, dangerous sexual energy that was brand new and absolutely terrifying.
But, you know, being the ultimate Dracula can get a little old. Lee hated being typecast, so he fought tooth and nail to make a film he believed was his best, The Wicker Man. And as Lord Summersile, he created a totally different kind of monster, a man who was charming, intelligent, and driven by a chillingly logical philosophy, not just bloodlust.
So we've got the aristocrat, the spy, and the movie monster. But that's still not the whole story. The man behind that persona was somehow even more fascinating, full of talents and beliefs that completely shattered his public image.
You've probably heard this rumor, right? Because of his roles, everyone thought he had this massive private library, like 20,000 books, all about black magic and the occult.
The truth, though, it was the complete opposite. Lee himself shot this rumor down again and again. He would literally use his fame to warn people, especially his fans, to stay far, far away from the very things that made him a star. The reality was, he was a deeply religious man, a devout Anglo-Catholic. He didn't see his work as celebrating evil at all. For him, it was always about showing these powerful, dark forces, only so we could see them get destroyed in the end. It was all a cautionary tale.
And if you think that's where the surprises end, you are so wrong. This list is just wild. The man spoke at least 5 languages fluently. He held a world record for the most screen sword fights. His step-cousin was Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond. Oh, and after a career as an opera singer, he decided to become a heavy metal frontman in his 90s.
And this is where it all comes together. In the final, incredible act of his career, it felt like the legendary life he lived and the iconic roles he played just completely merged into one, turning him into this truly timeless global icon.
I mean, how cool is this? He was the only person involved in the Lord of the Rings movies to have actually met Tolkien in person. He reread the books every single year. So on set, he wasn't just an actor, he was like a guardian of the source material, bringing a level of understanding to Saruman that no one else possibly could. And, of course, these massive roles in James Bond, in Lord of the Rings, in Star Wars,
introduced him to whole new generations of fans. His role as Count Dooku was a perfect example, directly using his real-life fencing skills, which, by the way, he was still showing off in his 80s.
But after all those iconic villains, you want to know what he said was his most important work. It wasn't a monster or a wizard, it was his portrayal of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan. He faced actual death threats to take that role, all because he wanted to honor a man he felt history had gotten wrong.
So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The characters he created are absolutely unforgettable. There's no doubt about that. But the man who brought them to life, the descendant of emperors, the spy, the scholar, the heavy metal rock star, he was, in every sense of the word, a legend all his own.